if you have not received responses 7 days before our sitting, every other thing that will come after that then cannot have any strength in saying that we are postponing because we got a letter, because there has not been compliance before the letter. So I wanted us to build that concurrence that the responses were not received either by us or the Auditor General for perusal. So the letter has no consequence.
Yeah, it's all, in my view, an exercise in futility, that letter. Because if we communicated to Nairobi on 14th of March, that gave them adequate time to do what they were required to do. The Auditor General has reported that there's been no correspondence, there's been no conversation at all. Even if the client was here with management responses, which have not been reviewed by the Auditor General, we would have a problem. The Clerk of the Senate has confirmed that we didn't receive the responses by 1st of April, which was expectation. So even if the client was here, we'd be having a problem. And further, and I think maybe we might need to make this a resolution, that any request for postponement of a meeting must come at least 7 days to the meeting. The same way we insist that responses must come 7 days to a meeting should be the same way we insist that if you are seeking a deferment, that request must be put before the committee at least 7 days to. And I think we now need to make that clear to avoid this situation where a governor wakes up and because he's not in the right mood, he writes a letter. We have seen Governor Sakaja moving around in prayer and in all sorts of fast-breaking activities. I wonder why it would then be difficult for him to honor the invitation of the Senate. But before we make any conclusions, let me ask the Senators Gataya and Senator Dulo to go on record, and thereafter maybe open up the plenary on this matter.
Thank you, Chair. This is Senator Mwenda Gataya, Mofa Tharaka County, member of this committee.
Karibu.
Madulo, Senator Ishilo.
Karibu. Now, we have a problem here, and at the risk of mixing up issues, I think some of us are members of other committees where Nairobi City County Governor has demonstrated clear contempt of the Senate. In the Roads Committee, where Senator Sifuna and I sit, we have had problems with this county. And I think even in this committee, we have had problems. We are dealing with 2 years where the opinion was adverse. And how much money is involved? What was the total budget in these 2 years? Or in each of the years? So was it 39 billion? 39 billion. 39 or 37?
39 billion and 37 billion.
So we are talking about 76 billion
Yes.
Kenya shillings. So we are to have a conversation on 76 billion Kenya shillings, which is easily the equitable share of 12 or 13 counties combined. The governor has chosen not to appear. And I think that even that letter that is referred to, we will have a lot of difficulties accepting it because of the time within which it came. And so I agree with Senator Methu that that letter, its timing, can then not be used to move the committee. It cannot move the committee to any position. So the facts are, the governor is not here. The governor has not corresponded with the Auditor General. The governor has not corresponded with the Senate. So what do we do to get answers to this 76 billion? Members, let me get your views. Senator Onyonka.
Chair, I just think you may have to pronounce yourself, of course, with the consultation with the senator of Nairobi, but I think these things to continue like this, because we have this issue in Nairobi, we have another one in Isiolo, and there are many others. The best thing, Chair, let's take this thing to the floor of the House as a motion, and let's pronounce ourselves. And let the whole of the Senate just say that this is a county that should not even be released money. I think we need to do something drastic for people to begin to realize that this is not just a joke.
Thank you. Senator Gata.
Chair, as a committee, we are becoming relevant almost every day. Because we have been taken with a lot of contempt. And I think if this trend continues, if it's not checked, maybe in the future, no governor is going to appear before us. Chair, I think this is the right time this committee is supposed to pronounce itself strongly to make sure that we stamp an authority, especially when it comes to oversighting the governors as per the mandate. It is very sad that the committee is supposed not to oversight the expenditure of the revenue of the national share, and all these things is being disregarded and taken just so casual and lightly. So, Chair, let us pronounce ourselves strongly and make sure that the world knows, the whole country knows that this is the committee of the Senate that is supposed to make sure that money that is being devoted to our countries is prudently put to use.
Thank you, Senator Gata. We have the advantage in this committee that we've got several chairs and several members of leadership of the House. So I'm sure we'll be able to give a very strong message. Senator Sifuna.
Yeah, Chair, first of all, let me express my disappointment once again with my governor. Chair, I think this is an exceptional case. Nairobi is an exceptional case. Unlike what the senator for Kisii has said, other governors find time to appear before the Public Accounts Committee of the Senate. Mr. Chairman, I belong to 3 other committees. The first one is the Energy Committee. We have had problems with Governor Sakaja appearing before the Energy Committee to respond to questions regarding the disaster in Mradi in Embakasi East. We have had occasion to speak to every other agency that was involved in one way or another by acts of omission or commission in that incident. The CS for Energy, Honorable Davis Chirchir, appeared before the Energy Committee. The EPRA management appeared before us. The National Environmental Management Authority appeared before us. The only agency that is remaining so that we can close that inquiry is the county government of Nairobi. And the last meeting we had at the Energy Committee was, I think, 2 weeks ago. They summoned him. He is supposed to appear before that committee tomorrow. And I am going to again face the specter where he's not appearing. At the Housing Committee, where we are both members chair, regarding the urban upgrading program, we have the largest housing program in the country. Nairobi has the largest housing program where we are redeveloping 13 estates. He failed to appear 6 times until the chair of the committee had to fine him 500,000 shillings. He is the reason and the motivation why Senator Ososi brought the motion before the House to enhance that fine, because 500,000 to Governor Sakaja is nothing, and to most of his governors is nothing. That is why there was a motion before the House to even give committees of this House and the House itself powers to arrest these people. I was with my governor on Saturday at the consecration of the 2 auxiliary bishops for Nairobi. He didn't indicate to me anywhere that he was going to travel. I was seated right next to him. So for us to receive this sort of contempt, and at the Energy Committee, he had the audacity one time to write at 8 a.m. when the meeting is supposed to start at 9, saying that he was going for a burial in Nyeri. That same burial that we all attended, but we had to prioritize parliamentary business. We finished and we went to Nyeri. Mr. Chairman, this is an exceptional case. And I really would strongly agree with the suggestion that has been made that this is not a matter to be discussed in this committee anymore. Governor Sakaja has to be brought before the whole House to be discussed, because you will see this frustration run across all the other committees. Even at the Committee of Health, he cancelled a meeting of the Committee of Health one time and he told us he was at State House. And this is a former senator. So this is a governor who needs to be brought to account. If you look at the matters we are discussing, Honorable Chair, 2020-2021, we have adverse report, adverse opinions from the Auditor General. 2021-2022 is adverse. 2022-2023, which was just submitted to the Senate last month, is also an adverse opinion. When will we ever have to have a conversation about the issues facing Nairobi? And he likes to claim that things are working in Nairobi. But if you ask anyone, just name one thing that is working in Nairobi, nobody can tell you. If you look at the schedule of the projects that are stalled in Nairobi, Mr. Chairman, it is crazy. And yet we receive the highest amount of money at this particular point in time. Nairobi ranks #1 on all the negative lists. If it is the highest pending bills in the counties, out of the 160 billion shillings pending for all the 47 counties, Nairobi has 107 billion pending. We have stalled projects from hospitals to markets to roads, but we can't have a conversation with your governor. Chairman, even if the people of Nairobi say that I am a bad person, that I am just hounding the governor, this is the moment when we have to do oversight. We have to have this conversation with him here. So if I can't have a conversation with him here on behalf of the people of Nairobi, when I follow him to funerals and those places he likes to party, can I be blamed, really? Can the committee be blamed? And this is a terrible situation that we're facing. If you look at the amounts of money, Nairobi is now doing budgets of over 40 billion. We don't pay suppliers. People are being auctioned. Garbage in places like Inako, in Umoja, have piled up. They are reaching the power lines. You go to places like Awangware, garbage has blocked sections of the road. And you can't come to have a conversation with us so that we help you to sort out this mess. If I was Pontius Pilate, chairman, I want to hand over my governor to you for hanging because I am unable to do anything else. I mean, what am I supposed to do as a senator? Please, take this governor and do with him as you will please. I have washed my hands.
No, you should not wash your hands. If there's a crucifixion, you will also drive a nail.
I'll drive the first nail.
Yeah. I think this is, Senator Sifuna has really made a strong case for this. Because where else do we meet a governor to discuss objectively issues around the impact of development and devolution, if not in this forum? Where else would you find that governor? When Senator Dulo goes to the streets of Isiolo, she's being accused of sabotaging the governor, and yet they cannot come here. When Sifuna goes to the streets of Nairobi, is accused of sabotaging the governor, and yet this was the impartial, objective, constitutional organ for that conversation. So what should we do? As the speaker says, we cannot be a house of lamentation. Senator Dulo.
Chair, I think we have powers to take action on such wrong governance. And my proposal is you need to bring a motion to the House where we pass as a resolution and take action against those governors who refuse to appear before this committee. And one of the proposal is the one that was made by Senator Onyonka, depending on the number of times they refuse to appear. So, and I think if their money is stopped, they are going to run all over.
Yes.
So that should be the best proposal and resolution that Senate should pass.
Thank you.
And I think, Chair, you have to move with speed because this is going to be a trend.
Yeah.
Immediately we resume on Tuesday, you must table your motion so that we can quickly pass and make a decision on it. Thank you.
Thank you. And as we share this, I want someone to reflect, maybe the legal team or the researchers. Contempt of parliament has never been defined as an offense, but contempt of court is, isn't it? So what are the consequences of contempt of court? And why would contempt of parliament be taken as a casual thing that does not invite certain consequences. And the judiciary is an arm of government or an arm of state, if you want to call it that. Parliament is also an arm of state. Contempt of executive orders and directives invites very, very strong repercussions, including Kindiki declaring shoot to kill orders. So why should contempt of parliament be such a laissez-faire matter? Perhaps that should be part of what we address in that motion, Senator Nyonga.
Absolutely. Because you see, Chair, I don't think there is anything that stops this committee going in that direction. I don't think there's anything that stops the Senate because our responsibilities are very clear. And I think the Supreme Court has actually pronounced itself. If it means we seek the good guidance of my Secretary General and other lawyers in this committee, we can actually have this matter even cascading to the Supreme Court for them to interpret what exactly do we do with a governor who doesn't want to come and meet this committee, and statutorily, that's what he should do.
Chair, it is shocking that we are discussing something because we have been around since I think almost like this is our second term. Senate has been there close to 11 years. Do you have a precedent?
Yes, I think there are countries just next door, Uganda. The Gora police unit.
No, I'm saying in Kenya.
Oh.
Do we have a similar case scenario where we have governors who have
contempt of parliament can lead to censure, because that's usually the consequence. You can be censured, you can be named.
Can they say censor the governor? Unless I thought the member governor is supposed to be censored by the MCs. Then I don't know.
Yes,
I think there are those constitutional gaps are there.
And that's why we are saying we need to come
up
with a motion that deals
with
with
not
that.
To raise a mandate to the governor, as I said it.
Yeah, that's possible. That's within our powers because provisions on stoppage of funds are there, flagrant disregard of the PFM and other laws.
Can we recommend an arrest?
Yes, it's in the motion.
Because I've always known that Senate is a quasi-judicial. I mean, it's a court away from the normal judiciary setup.
And that's why I'm saying there's a gap. This, whatever we have in the Powers and Privileges Act of summons and fines, is just a slap on the wrist. People like Sakaja can pay 500,000 every week, maybe drawing it from parking fees of Nairobi. So we need to have much more stronger consequences. And that's why I was asking the legal clerk to tell us, what is in law, what is the consequence of contempt of court? Is it jail, is it fine, and for what duration?
Chair, the consequence of contempt of court is the judge can direct that you actually serve time if you refuse to purge that contempt. So you've seen civil servants, for instance, who refuse to honor court orders. The threat for the imprisonment is always there. And this is why it was important to support Senator Ososi's motion. But I know that it has to go to the National Assembly because it was bringing amendments to the Powers and Privileges Act. Once those amendments are in place, we will have more powers. But for now, I think the suggestion that has been made, a motion needs to be brought. I have no problem as the Senator of Nairobi if the Senate resolved to stop money going to Nairobi. And nobody should argue that you're punishing the people of Nairobi because nothing is happening even with the funds. Nothing is happening in Nairobi. So, Chair, this is why I'm saying, for me really, let the words of the Speaker reverberate, that we cannot be a house of lamentations. Once the powers of arrest come, once the National Assembly passes those amendments to the powers and privileges, we will have a bit more in terms of what we can do. But for the moment, let us look at the things that the Senate can do. And the only way to deal with these rogue people, we should stop all money going to Sakaja's government until he appears here to answer this question. There's no other way.
Chair,
And
you know, this
immediately
committee, this committee has the sharpest legal minds actually in the Senate. This committee is composed of very brilliant legislators. I don't know why we are falling short of getting to the answer at what we are supposed to do with these rogue governors, because, you know, we have been, some of us have been around for quite some time, and I think you must have witnessed some of these things before. So I don't think whether we are supposed to be struggling to get answers to what we are supposed to do. We are supposed to put our minds together and consult maybe other precedents across the board. Because we can't continue like this. Maybe we are becoming irrelevant every day.
Yeah, and you had asked for precedents. One of the first scenarios that the Senate faced was with regards to appearance of Oparanya before the Public Accounts Committee. He refused to appear. He went to court, and I think he lost the applications he took to court. And the committee directed the Inspector General of Police to arrest and produce Oparanya before the Senate. The IG did not honor the directives of the Senate. So the Senate had to march to Vigilance House to demand the arrest of that governor, which again did not happen. So we cannot, we can reflect on those experiences, but we should never be seen to be acting in vain. Because if we are seen to be acting in vain, I have heard it from some governors say that, well, Senate, they will go, I will go there, they will embarrass me, but that will be the end. Or I will choose not to go. They will fine me, I will pay the fine, and I will continue paying the fine indefinitely. So we must have stiffer consequences. And it's not just a matter of going to the IG to seek the arrest of Sakaja, because that has been tried in the past. We need to try something different.
Chair.
Maybe Senator Mariam has been seeking this.
Chair, mine is the last comment of yours. We need to do a long-term consequences so that we can, one is maybe we can, as a legal, I don't know where the gaps is as a legal law, if this IBC or what, we need in such scenario is a lot of money. What if we can do and that somebody such kind cannot vie in any other positions? It's permanent. Unaharibia CV so that he cannot go in any as like an impeachment. If you do it something that this guy governors not appearing to any other committees for 6 times, they are supposed to do. They are not supposed to vie any positions for the next after 5 years. Maybe you can do also a foot like that so that they can see, these guys are serious, so that next time I cannot come back because I have my CVs it has been in such scenario, so that at least we have a teeth to bite.
Yeah, declaring persons unfit to hold public office.
Yeah. Chair.
Senator Du?
I think the powers of someone at the tail end lies with a different institution, which has been frustrated several times. My position is, since we have powers of making resolutions or passing resolutions within the House, we should actually do that, because resolution of Parliament stands. And I think we are the ones who disperse funding. If somebody does not want to come and account for budget that they have been allocated, the best solution is to stop money going there so that they are held accountable. So I think powers of someone aside, we should actually move a motion in the House to hold these people accountable. We cannot allow that to happen. You've seen even EACC has been withdrawn from this committee and nobody is giving an explanation. So that clearly shows how the committee of this House is actually being frustrated, and we should not just sit and watch. I thank you.
Thank you. Senator Mithu?
Honorable Chair, even as we look at the long-term solutions to this particular problem, we are seized with the matter, and I feel the pain of Senator Sifuna, because even though we have a problem with the other county governments, the kind of monies that we are speaking about, over 70 billion, is not little money. And also the kind of reports that we are dealing with are not unqualified, are not qualified, are 3 advanced opinions in a row. And Honorable Chair, in putting our foot down, I'm very persuaded to follow the route of Senator Fatuma Dulo, an experienced legislator, in the sense that if we issue summons, which we will ultimately, because I mean that is what has been provided for in our standing orders, and the governor also fails to appear, and we find that governor, as you have correctly put it, that governor will pay the 500,000 and can pay the 500,000 continuously every week for so long as we want the 500,000. But a more permanent solution and an easier route is what Senator Drew is saying. Let's have a motion in the House that to stop, if we're able to stop the flow of money from the Office of the Control of Budget, who I don't know why the Senator for Isiolo did not notice that it is not only the ESCC who are absent, but also the Control of Budget. If I am not wrong, they today is not present. Just allow me to finish, then you come in. So, Honorable Chair, if you're able to stop money from flowing, because if you cannot be able to account for what you have received, then we should stop what you are receiving, and I'm sure that would be an easier route for governors to become more accountable. So I support that proposal by Senator Dulo that bring that motion. Let's have a resolution. Let's use them available tools of trade, because you've tried the Inspector General of Police and you are frustrated. We have issued summons. Senator Sifuna has said that for the Energy Committee, they have invited the governor for 6 times, and he has not appeared. And it is the same person. So if I think especially for this committee, because the matters that you are dealing with are on financial prudence, we need to deal with that financial aspect of talking to or having a resolution that the control budget does not release any more money to the Nairobi County government until they appear before this committee and account for what they have received already.
Thank you, Senator Mitchell. Senator Nyonga.
Maybe, Chair, the last point for me I would like to make is that even just being given an opportunity as a committee to debate and discuss the behavior of the governor and some of the governors that we'll be working with data, information, and the consequentials, I think would make it possible for our colleagues to actually make deliberations which, as far as I'm concerned, would make some of these governors realize that we are not joking. Thank you.
So, members, from your contribution, I see we have problems at 3 levels. Number 1, we have a problem at the audit, at the time of audit, and that's why we have an adverse opinion. Most of these things are issues that have not been supported, expenditure that has not been supported. Non-provision of documentation during audit is an offense, and the Public Audit Act already speaks to it. So where we are having a problem is, first of all, enforcement of the Public Audit Act. We have written a law that is aggressive and that is very clear on such cases. Adverse opinions, disclaimers, generally are as a result of either outright theft or non-provision of documentation. So in our motion, we must also address issues of enforcement of the Public Audit Act. Then we have a problem at the point of implementation. Who enforces the Public Audit Act? Who prosecutes? Who investigates and prosecutes? Auditor General, you will have reached a conclusion that documents were not provided. And we'll have agreed with you that documents were not provided. Who is supposed to pursue conviction? ESCC and DPP, isn't it? Now, we have a serious problem with ESCC, and this I must put on record, and I know the media is here. We have received no explanation why the officer from the ESCC has been withdrawn, and the withdrawal came at the time when we were going to Isiolo, and clerk, we directed that we write to the ESCC to give us an explanation on why the officer was withdrawn and to get a replacement. Have we received any response from ESCC?
Mr. Chairman, no, we have not received any response, but the letter went about a week ago.
I will direct that we call the chair of the ESCC and the CEO of the ESCC to present that explanation before the Senate and before the media. Because we have so many, yes, they'll appear before this committee. We have so many things of implementation, matters of implementation, that are hanging. Because whatever resolution we make out of this that requires a resolution through conviction, then we must rely on EACC or DCI to facilitate that. So let's get an appropriate date. Even if, notwithstanding the response, we still want to have a conversation with EACC on other matters to do with implementation, particularly implementation of the Public Audit Act. Those provisions are already there. The officers who presided over the management of finances in Nairobi City County, they should be in jail by now, if you are to go by the Public Audit Act. The third part where we have a problem is enforcing appearance before the Senate. And I think we have said it very clearly, that we must elevate contempt of parliament to the same level as contempt of court, yes, and as contempt of executive orders. You have heard ministers saying that we shall shoot to kill. When they say we shall shoot to kill, they are basically saying if you disregard instructions from the executive, then we've got a recourse. What about parliament, which is represents the people? We cannot be seen to be desperate and people who just lament. So I agree that we must craft a motion that will cover those perspectives. On the issue of being declared unfit to hold public office, I think we have said that particularly for those who have professional responsibility. These adverse reports were presided over by some accountants. Why should they be in office? Even the one for the 2022-2023.
Yes.
Why should those accountants be in office? Why would an accountant get an adverse opinion in Mombasa, then comes to Nairobi, fetches an adverse opinion? In fact, some of them, we know their histories. They started getting adverse opinions in Isiolo, then they were promoted to Mombasa, then now they've been promoted to Nairobi. And the reports of the Auditor General always bear the same conclusion. Those people should not be trusted, should not be within an inch of public resources. And I think we can also carry in that motion, that resolution, that those professionals should be declared unfit to hold public office and should be disciplined by their respective bodies. Now, before we just close this and give directions, did you get, okay, sir, did you, on the question of contempt of court, I know Senator Sifuna has addressed it, but why do you think we don't have legislative provisions to elevate contempt of parliament to the same level as contempt of court? Remember, we perform a quasi-judicial function. So the tools that are available to the judiciary should also be available to us within fair administrative action.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Indeed, within the Parliamentary Powers and Privileges Act, there is a provision for offences where section, just give me a minute, Chair, where a person can be jailed, and I think it's section 24, Chair. So the issue with that is when it comes to enforcement, the article that establishes the Office of the Inspector General does not allow the Inspector General to be given directions on any person. So that is the gap that we face when it comes to enforcement of orders with regards to the committee.
Just read the section as it is.
Just a minute, Chair. Give me a minute, Chair, I'll come back to you.
Chair,
Senator Sifuna.
for that. Chair.
Yeah.
Can you Chair, there's provisions in the Public Finance Management Act on how you assess the need for intervention in accordance with Article 225, which is a stoppage of funds. And you will see under Section 94 of that Act, it provides for indicators of serious or persistent material breach. Because Chairman 225, so let me open that. Yes, Article 225, Subarticle 3 provides for instances where a cabinet secretary responsible for finance may stop transfer of funds to a public entity. And at 2253A, it says only for a serious material breach or persistent material breaches of the measures established under that regulation. So if you come to how you determine the serious or persistent material breaches, Article Section 94, 1 from A to B, C, and D, you will see there at D, the following factors, singly or in combination, may further indicate that a state organ or public entity is in serious material breach or persistent material breach of the measures established under this Act. Number 1, the controller of budget has raised material issues in the quarterly report. The Auditor General has withheld an opinion or issued a disclaimer due to inadequacies in the financial statements or records of the state organ or public entity, or has issued an opinion which identifies a serious financial problem in the state organ or public entity. So, Mr. Chairman, first of all,
which could be adverse.
Yes, this is adverse. 3 financial years of adverse opinions, in my view, is an indicator of serious or persistent material breaches. Then, Mr. Chairman, if you go to, I think it is Section 96.
And as Senator Sifuna proceeds, also check for us what the opinion was in the prior year, which was 2019-2020, so that we contextualize for how long have we had these adverse opinions.
Yes. So, Chairman, there's a procedure under 96 for stoppage of funds process in county government. It says 96(1), where the cabinet secretary finds a state organ, which is a county government entity, to be in serious or persistent material breach of its obligations or financial commitments, the cabinet secretary shall, in accordance with Article 225 of the Constitution, immediately stop the transfer of funds. So I believe in this particular case, there are serious or persistent material breaches of the responsibilities of the county government of Nairobi. This is the act upon which, in addition to the sections of the Public Audit Act that you have very ably brought up, should constitute enough grounds for us to take this action as a Senate. We resolve that the Cabinet Secretary should stop further funds to the county government of Nairobi. Because if we cannot have these conversations here and you are facing adverse opinions, including up to the latest audit report, then there's nothing we're doing as a Senate. We are doing a great disservice to the people of Nairobi.
Okay, could you confirm what was the opinion in 2019-2020? Because the one for 2022-2023 has been released and it's adverse. So that would be 3 years of adverse. As I check that, Jackson?
Yes, Chair. The section I'm referring to is Section 27 of the Parliamentary Powers and Privileges Act, which proscribes the offences relating to witnesses. Under 27(1), it provides that a person commits an offence where the person, A, having been duly summoned in terms of Section 18, fails without sufficient cause to 1, attend at the time and place specified in the summons, or 2, remain in attendance until excused from the further attendance by the person presiding at the inquiry. B, when called upon under Section 20, refuses to be sworn in or to make an affirmation as a witness, or C, fails or disobeys without sufficient cause to 1, answer fully and satisfactorily all questions lawfully put to the person under Section 20, or 2, produce any document, paper, book, or record in the person's possession, custody, or control which the person has been required to produce under Section 20. subsection 2 provides that a person who commits an offense under subsection 1 is liable on conviction to a fine not exceeding 200,000 shillings or to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 6 months or to both. And then subsection 3 gives other offenses which are related to the conduct of a person, such as assaulting a member of the committee, threatening a member of the committee, inducing a person to give false evidence, and so on. So, Chair, from this provision, you find that there is already a provision in law, but the problem is the enforcement. Because, for example, the provision on the jailing for 1 year is we have a gap when it comes to the enforcement of that. Thank you.
That's the resolution.
Upon conviction.
Yeah.
So, can a resolution of the House move the investigative agencies to investigate and prepare a file for prosecution?
Yes, Chair, that would be the appropriate.
I doubt whether the conviction is of any other entity other than the House.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the conviction is by the House.
By the House, yes.
So in this particular,
It's
correct, it's voted for and the guy should go to jail immediately. Let the conviction be made first. As to how it is enforced, we have methods, Chair. We have methods. Here in Nairobi, we have methods.
No, we shall not revert to Nairobi methods. They are bloody, as we know it. Oeji, what was your opinion?
So for 2020, it was adverse as well. Then 2019, yes, 2019, 2020, it was adverse. 2018, 2019, it was qualified.
So, if a county gets 4 adverse opinions in a row, is it that a persistent material breach of the PFM?
Yes.
It's a serious and persistent material breach. And that should then
Chair,
allow us to move.
If I ask Audit Act also, if consecutive of 4 advance, what is the reaction on the Audit Act also?
Auditor?
Is there some actions in there?
I think from the Auditor General, there's no recourse. Once we have audited, then now it moves to the oversight committees. Thank you.
Because from the auditors, now we move to Article 225. Because they've done their report persistently, it's been adverse. The power to deal with those kind of scenarios are in Article 225 of the Constitution. So, members, we probably might need to agree on a way forward. And one, we have said that the EACC, CEO and chair, should appear before this committee to explain the reasons why we no longer have an officer from that entity, and yet they are the implementing agency that facilitates our work. There are a lot of cases where we have given directions that investigations should be conducted and files should be sent to DPP if illegalities are detected. We need to get a report. So when the EACC is appearing before us, they must summarize all the action points that we had allocated to them and give us a status report. There are areas where we had called for special audit, for example, in Vihiga County Assembly, and several other cases. So the EACC should be called for that conversation. It's not just limited to their representation here, but it should be a detailed conversation, including the status of actions that have been assigned to them. Secondly, we have agreed on the need for a motion to deal with the gaps that we are contending with, that sometimes makes the Senate or Parliament appear weak. Parliament cannot be weak, and Parliament cannot appear helpless, and Parliament cannot be a house of lamentation. Otherwise, it will have no effect, it will have no influence in the eyes and the lives of the people. I'm going to ask the Secretariat to do a little paper for our consideration on that subject of contempt of Parliament I think there's some jurisprudence around it. There are some practices next door in Uganda. They even have a police station within parliament. They are able to enforce. They are able to direct the Inspector General of Police to undertake certain actions. And I think there is this thing of constitutional purity, where we are saying the IG cannot be directed. And every other day they're being directed to chase Sifuna and other people of offenses of wearing sufurias on their heads.
Correct.
We have seen that. So let us not lie to ourselves that we are such a constitutionally pure country that Parliament cannot ask the IG to take action on an errant governor. I believe that if there's a gap in our laws, we are the law-making institution, and if there is anything that Parliament must do is to strengthen its role so that its directives are taken seriously. Now, thirdly, we have said that in view of the persistent material breaches of the PFM that has been seen in Nairobi, where there's been 4 adverse opinions over a period of 4 years, that we shall look at the provisions of Article 225 and provisions of the PFM on stoppage of funds. This committee will strongly consider and perhaps propose the invocation of Article 225 over the persistent material breaches that have been seen in Nairobi City County. But before we get to that conclusion, Article 47 or 48 thereabouts on fair administrative action will require that the governor of Nairobi must be compelled to appear before this House. I think that's Article 47 on fair administrative action. We therefore must compel the governor of Nairobi to appear before this committee so that certain conclusions we can only make once we have given him a fair hearing. So, members, I want to propose that summons be issued to compel the governor of Nairobi to appear before this committee within 14 days, of course, subject to the calendar. But the reason for 14 days is we expect that when those summons are issued, the governor of Nairobi is going to collaborate with the Office of the Auditor General in terms of preparation of their management responses. So we are issuing summons to compel Governor Sakaja to appear before this committee and to respond to the Auditor General's report on the theft of 76 billion. Because an adverse opinion simply means that. It means that the Auditor General cannot confirm that that money was put to good use. So when he appears, he must appear with his detailed responses. We don't want stories here. We don't want him to come with just with a boarding pass and then he goes away. He definitely must come with a boarding pass to confirm that he had traveled. He definitely must justify why that travel was more important than defending 76 billion, but he definitely also must go into the details of that report. So, clerk, let's look for a date within the 14 days, the minimum 14 days, to allow for preparation of written responses. If the governor fails to appear, or if the governor appears and fails to convince the committee as to why he did not honor the invitation today, then we've got the fines that are specified in the Parliamentary Powers and Privileges Act. But we must also reprimand, despite issuing summons, strongly reprimand the governor of Nairobi for skipping this session of the Public Accounts Committee. It looks like contempt of Parliament, and it looks like impunity if we put together what Senator Sifuna has mentioned about his conduct in other committees. And the message we must give to Governor Sakaja and others is that nobody in this republic is bigger than the Senate. It is a Senate that acts as a trial chamber for the impeachment of the president, of the deputy president, and for governors. The Senate has risen to the occasion in the past and has sent a governor of Nairobi home. And we hope that we will not be called upon to make a similar decision in this session of Parliament. But to Governor Sakaja and others of his ilk, you are not bigger than the Senate. What we expect of governors is for them to rise to the high calling of their offices. And part of that high calling is not just to move around and be smart and be on billboards. It's about being available to Parliament, being available to the people who elected you, being accountable and being transparent. It is a job of this committee to enforce accountability, to enforce transparency, and we shall also enforce availability. Parliamentary business must take precedence over any other business for public or state officers whose responsibility is oversighted by the Senate. And that applies to cabinet secretaries, it applies to governors, it applies to any other person. So with that, we probably come to the conclusion that Governor Sakaja has been summoned and he must appear before this committee. He must first explain his absence today and thereafter explain how 76 billion was utilized. At the end of that conversation, we shall take a view on whether to move the cabinet secretary to stop funds as per Article 225 of the Constitution. But in the interim, we want the EACC to start processing the issues raised by the Auditor General that relate to violation of the Public Audit Act and relate to violation of the PFM Act. There are very clear violations in these reports, some of which do not even need a resolution of Parliament, because it's not the job of Parliament to launder or to whitewash ills. If it's wrong, it's wrong. If documents were not provided during audit, and yet that is a requirement of the Public Audit Act, it does not matter what Parliament says. So I think that brings us to our conclusion. And I hope that Governor Sakaja will present himself in the 14 days as per the summons that will be issued. Senator Onyonka.
Chair, before you make your ruling conclusive, I just wanted to add that one of the issues that I read somewhere, and I could forward that to you, is that Nairobi County government, I'm sure Honorable Sifuna is aware, has actually been having issues with the payroll, where more than 20 billion shillings has been paid irregularly to some people who are getting salaries paid into same accounts with same numbers and all that stuff. So this is really, really rotten to the core.
Senator Smith?
Maybe, Chair, without being preemptive, so that we don't find ourselves in the same situation that we are in today, because I know tomorrow part of our meeting is a meeting with the Cabinet Secretary for Public Service and Performance, and then the Council of Governors. I would want them to know from the Secretariat whether there is any communication on whether Governor Sakaja will be back by tomorrow, because I know that he's the one that chairs the Labour Committee in the Council of Governors. So we expect that he shall still come here tomorrow. So I don't know whether there is an indication on when he's supposed to come back. Maybe he's coming back tonight so that he can be able to join us tomorrow, or he has written that he will not come back, or there's a communication from the council, because the council has many people that can come on their behalf.
Yes, Chair. The information we have through the letter that was written by the County Secretary indicates that Governor Sakaja is away today. However, the chairman of the Labour Committee of the COG has changed. It's no longer Governor Sakaja. It's Governor Mutai Kaiga, the governor for Nyeri.
Okay, so that brings us to our meeting for tomorrow, because tomorrow we are supposed to meet the Cabinet Secretary, the Council of Governors, over human resource issues in counties. And it was mainly to do with IPPD and maybe the plans they have to upgrade to another platform. And Clerk, you're indicating that the CS has sent information that they are unavailable tomorrow?
Yes, I've gotten word this morning informally, though, that the CS will not be available tomorrow, and then the process of writing to us to indicate the same.
Now, this was the thing that was being canvassed in the House 2 weeks ago. Senator Sifuna, you recall, There's a week when all cabinet secretaries, or some cabinet secretaries, decided to send letters in the morning and skipped sessions of the question session in the Senate. And I remember there was about 3 hours of debate on the matter. And the conclusion of the speaker was, let's process a motion. I'm not sure whether someone is processing a motion, but even a cabinet secretary should never have the comfort of deciding when and how he's coming to parliament. When there's an invitation of parliament and there is good, adequate advance notice, we cannot entertain this thing of a cabinet secretary waking up and cancelling a meeting that has been scheduled for the last 2 weeks. That again is belittling the House. And it speaks to what we have discussed at length, that there is some contempt that is coming out as a result of a perceived weakness. And we must make an example of some people so that it can be painful and people can see that Parliament is a serious institution. We are not going to hold a meeting on such important issues without the Cabinet Secretary. This Senate and this committee will not accept, in place of a Cabinet Secretary, the Principal Secretary. The Principal Secretary can only accompany a Cabinet Secretary. In fact, this Senate refused to listen to Chief Administrative Secretaries, even though I know some committee chairs were lenient on them. But my position as a chair of this committee is that even if you were to have CASs in future, a CAS cannot come here on behalf of the executive. And I want to encourage other chairs of committees present that we take that position in unison. That therefore means that if indeed we get a letter to that effect, then we might have to find other ways of compelling the Cabinet Secretary to appear before the House. But since you don't have a formal letter, I think we maintain that we have our meeting tomorrow. If a formal letter comes, then we must compel the appearance before this committee, because we are discussing such important issues. In fact, we might even expand the agenda to go beyond IPPD and start talking about remuneration of health workers in counties, because that's also a big issue currently.
Chair, I think maybe you'd think of combining also the issue of the own source revenue, because it has also been an issue. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, no, on source revenue, we wanted to have a different, we wanted to have the treasury team. Treasury team, KRA, and so it's on this one of personnel, I think we had called the cabinet secretary for, not treasury, it was cabinet secretary for
personnel management.
For personnel management. And that is Moses Kuria?
Moses Kuria.
Yeah.
Moses Kuria.
So Moses Kuria must know that parliamentary business takes precedence over any other business. And if the president has not made that clear to them, then I wonder why he moved the House to have cabinet secretaries come to the Senate, unless it was just a PR ploy.
Yeah, Chair, first of all, two things that as a member of the Senate House Business Committee, we have faced this problem that indeed, as you said yourself, it was a request from the executive that cabinet secretaries be allowed to appear before the House, and our standing orders were amended accordingly to allow that. But as they say in Swahili, mtoto akililia wembe mpe. It has come back to haunt them, because I saw a letter at the SBC, a communication from the chief cabinet secretary, indicating that we need certain quantities of questions before a cabinet secretary appears. And yet it could be one single question from a member that has national importance. What it has done is that because of the failure to appear by some of these cabinet secretaries, you find a member has asked a question in June of last year. It was a current affair. Like if you were to ask a question regarding the ongoing strike by doctors, and then the cabinet secretaries appears in December of 2024, the question has lost its currency. Another problem is that there is very serious backlog. You found like the last time that the cabinet secretary for transport appeared before the House, there was almost 15 questions for him to answer. It's because when these matters are in the public discourse, they are live. We don't get opportunity for us to have that conversation with the cabinet secretaries. So for me, really, there is a broader conversation on how seriously people are taking parliament and parliamentary business, and the retinue of excuses. If you see the range of excuses that are given, why somebody has not appeared. Look at the letter, for instance, that is before you. All they do is to tell you casually that I have traveled. They don't indicate how long they are going to travel. When they say reschedule to another date, you don't know their travel itinerary. It would be polite for somebody to say, I'll be back in the country on such and such a date. But they don't even bother so that they can guide the committee on when to schedule these meetings. So when Senator Matthew is asking, is he available tomorrow? Nobody knows. The letter doesn't say I'll be away from the country from this date to this date. All they do is to just casually tell you that they have traveled without even the courtesy of telling you even the destination. The committee might actually be also traveling to that same country. It is possible we can decide, oh, you are in Dubai. Okay, we are also coming there tomorrow. Can we have this conversation there? They don't tell you, So the level of contempt, Chair, is what is pushing us to this level where we feel now something needs to be done. And I agree with that direction that we cannot take any other person in place of the minister responsible or the governor responsible.
Yeah, if someone said, I'm a Muslim, I'm going to Mecca for pilgrimage, it makes sense. Senator Methu, are you aware whether Governor Sakaja has gone to Mecca?
Maybe not, and his prayers will not be heard.
Okay, I think then we need to bring this meeting to a close. It's quite a sad turn of events to have members travel from the counties at a time when we're on recess to be here on a Monday to do business, and then nothing happens. But we are dedicated and committed to doing that which our people elected us to do, and we shall do it. We shall do it. For Nairobi, just as I conclude, let us also think of doing visits to some of the projects that have been flagged by the Auditor General. Correct. We can't be calling the governor from across the road, and then we look at paperwork, and we'll come here trying to be cleverer than everybody, and not visit the projects. So maybe after the appearance, after those 14 days, we must also schedule a day or two where the Senate goes out to verify, accompanied by the Auditor General and the governor also being present to look at those projects. Because if they come and tell us that some projects that have been listed here have been completed, we must go there and confirm that those projects work. That's when the work of the Senate will be felt.
Chair, I thank you for that direction because, and one of the things that I wanted us to change in the manner in which we conduct those visits is that there is usually what the Senate calls a courtesy call to the office of the governor. Chairman, I want to dissuade you, please, when the committee goes to the ground, we should not extend those courtesies to the governor, because my experience with the health committee last time is that the governor ensured that the meeting with him took the longest time possible so that the committee had no time to visit the projects. We were scheduled to visit all the county health facilities. We ended up only doing 2. And Chair, as he's holding you up there, he has sent his team on the ground. They are cleaning the city mortuary so that you don't see what the problem is there. But when you arrive, you will still be confronted with the problems, So in my view, because if you look at the 2023 Auditor General's report, there is a schedule of almost 100 stalled projects in Nairobi. If it is not roads, it is hospitals, it's all sorts of constructions that are stalled. It's sports facilities and so on and so forth. So, Chair, I would very much welcome that visit of the Public Accounts Committee to Nairobi. But scrap off this thing of first going to the governor's office. In fact, for him, he should just be seeing us here in the committee room. We should never, as a house, be treated to the spectre I saw in the health committee, that you go and sit in his office there for 5 hours discussing things that you should be seeing with your own eyes. So when that visit is arranged, please, Chair, we should just start at 6 a.m. the projects, and we make sure by evening we have done at least half of those projects, and we have a proper conversation about the state of Nairobi.
Thank you. Finally, I think,
Chair.
Senator Mariam.
Chair, I agree with Senator Sifuna, because there's not even a health committee only, because other committees, if they go on the ground for checking, they normally go to the governor office, but it takes long. Because I don't know what is the arrangement with the governors. They hold a longest meeting so that you cannot go on the ground or prepare themselves on the scenario that if we go to this site, you will not see what 1, 2, 3. So maybe we can limit ourselves, because you cannot go to your house without informing you. You have to knock the door to the governor, but you have to limit yourself at what time, and you just leave, not taking long, so that you have to minimize yourself timely. Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Chairman, I didn't want to comment on this particular matter, but I am dissuaded to going to the county. I mean, we are going there for oversight. And whether the governor is present or not, we are with the Office of the Auditor General. We just want to go and confirm that what the Auditor General has found is the situation on the ground. Because in most cases, we find ourselves, Honorable Chair, the Auditor General says that a project is incomplete. In the response of the county government, they say that a project is complete. So the reason why we are going there as a committee is to affirm which position of the two is the correct position. So there is no point of really doing courtesy to the governor. We are going to Mihango Dispensary. Just tell the governor that we'll be at Mihango Dispensary at 10 in the morning. If he is available, he will be able to join us. If he is not available, we are there with the Auditor General and we shall make our findings. So that we're able to be prudent on time. And Honorable Chair, I think that must extend not only to Nairobi County, it must extend to most of our counties, that we can make time. I feel that we do justice to this process of oversight when we visit the real projects on the ground. I felt, in my opinion, like we did so well when we were in Turkana, to go and see those very, very high-consuming projects. We saw them, we saw what the progress is. Well, there was some bit of trying to clean up Honorable Sifuna, but a crack on the wall, nothing can be done to it. So you just find that crack, and we're able to now make very, very, very informed reports, Honorable Chair. So we could be clustering counties together. Say on a weekend, go to Nyeri and Nyandarua. They are next door neighbors, so that even our people can be able to feel that we are, instead of just relying on the responses that we sometimes, Honorable Chair, and I have had that problem myself. The governor comes with a very big bundle, which Senator Sifuna says that is a way of trying to hoodwink the committee, and they also do very funny photos. So you are not able to even tell whether this house is a kiosk, is a toilet, and they say that is complete. And I always say, and I asked, you remember I asked Governor Lenku when he appeared before us here, I'm looking at your page. The photos that have been put on your page for the event that you attended on the weekend are so clear, but the photos that you have brought in the Senate are so of very low quality. How comes you are able to get a good camera for your event and a bad camera for the responses? We are not able to tell completely that what we are seeing on the photo and what we get in the response is the situation on the ground. Let's go to Nyandarua, when the governor says that they have done county headquarters up to 70%. Go to Nyandarua and see what up to 70%. And that way we shall have been a bit prudent.
Chair, just one final comment. Perhaps maybe it should not be a blanket withdrawal of goodwill for all governors, because there are governors who actually have the courtesy. There are governors who appear here and they cooperate with the committee for us to be able to do our job. But somebody who never extends courtesy to the Senate, somebody who shows contempt at every opportunity, that is not somebody who should be getting courtesy calls from senators. You don't even need to tell him that you're coming, because, like for me, as a senator of Nairobi or as a senator of Homa Bay or Nyandarua, you can't say that this is Sakaja's house that we have to knock on his door. No, this is a public entity. I mean, we just proceed and go. So if somebody is in the habit of being discourteous, there is no need for him to get any courtesies from the Senate.
And maybe please, Chairman, and I'm not reopening the discussion because we have had it. It's only that Senator Sifuna has jogged my mind, so that it is not seen that we have a problem with governors appearing. It is fair to say that over 95% of the governors appear before this committee very faithfully. Yeah. We only have a few problems with a few governors, especially those that have received very, very huge budgets. We have a small problem with, not a small problem, a very big problem in Nairobi, a problem with Isiolo, a problem with, I think, Kiambu, a few governors. But most of the governors are realizing that this is a very, very important process, a very, very important parliamentary business, and they take it as serious. So we just want to ask that their colleagues just take cue and follow, so that we don't just blanket condemn every governor and say that they don't appear before the Senate. They appear. We have not had a problem with most of the governors. They appear as scheduled. Only a few.
Thank you, Senator Methu. The practice in this committee is whenever we do the county visits, we do not go to the governor's office. We call the governor to the county assembly or to a venue of our choice. I remember when I led a delegation to Samburu, we secured a venue. I think it was a public, Catholic-run institution. Mm. So the governor came, met us there before we went to do the site visits. Yeah. So that has always been the practice, that because it's the person you are coming to oversight. So if you're going to spend 2 hours in his office taking tea and mandazi, what message are you communicating to the members of public? So for this committee, we do not do those courtesies of county commissioner or county governor. We go and have a meeting of the committee in the county, and we invite the governor to that meeting. And I think that also should be the way other committees or conduct themselves. Senator Onyonka.
Chair, I'm glad to hear Senator Methu and all of us discussing the relevance of the visits we've made. To be sincere with you, Chair, some of our sittings, I think we can do them in some of the counties. Yep. Because the exercise we're conducting, I would like to call it more like a quasi-financial legal outfit. But there is a political angle to it. When the public sees us responding and discussing these critical issues at their county headquarters, it has a different significance than when we are in Nairobi. I think it would help our committee, and indeed all the committees, that we get out of Nairobi and just go out and check out on what these people are doing. Thank you.
And maybe it should be customary that counties that are neighboring, Kiambu, Machakos, Kajiado, counties that are neighboring Nairobi, there is no great expense in driving to the county assembly, holding our meetings there, and then doing site visits. So I guess that was the spirit even when we started this session. We just need to give effect to it. So George, when we are looking at the schedule, let's also build in some time that we can utilize for those county visits. Mm. So,
what if we take the direction options? My opinion is we visit counties which have advanced reports so that we can do it on their ground.
Yes. Yeah, we can prioritize that.
Yes.
I think Methu is the one who talked of cluster, so clustering. It makes it easy for the OAG because the OAG also operates in certain clusters. So we pick a cluster at the north, a cluster in western, a cluster at the coast. That will make our work more impactful. Senator Gata.
Chair, for the last 1 year that I've sat in this committee, I have gathered some intelligence, maybe from these far-flung counties, especially the eastern counties, the Turkana, all those counties. They have serious issues to do with the management of resources. I don't know for what reasons. I think they take advantage of the fact that they are far, and I think as a committee we are supposed not to make sure that we are supposed to exercise what we did in Turkana. That Turkana issue really brought us into limelight, and I think we are supposed now to set those examples to counties like Mandela, Wajir, and those far-flung counties where people just assume that Nairobi is too far away, It will take us another 2 years before we are summoned. Maybe we will be invited to the Senate Committee on Public Accounts and so forth. I think once Nairobi is supposed to make those impromptu visits to those counties, because Chair, I have witnessed, I've gathered a lot of intelligence. There is a lot of misuse of public resources in those counties. I don't know for what reasons. I think there is that assumption that they are far away from us, and I think they can make use of money the way they want to use without any due regard for adhering to those financial regulations.
Yeah, and I also want to assure the media, because I've seen there's been some pushback following your reports on some proceedings of this committee with regards to Marsabit. And having looked at what was covered in the media, in my view, it was accurate. It captured what was said here. And the beautiful thing is that these proceedings are streamed live. If someone is to challenge you on the issue of loss of KDSP funding, it was the governor himself who confirmed that the adverse opinion cost them the conditional grant. If anyone was to question you on whether 8 billion was stolen or well spent, it's in the Auditor General's report saying that he could not confirm in all material respects that the money was utilized properly. So our friends in the media, we thank you for what you're doing, and we will not allow you to go down on your own, especially when you're reporting what is factual and what is true. And I think if there is that pushback, we will have no problem as a committee going to Marsabit to verify how those resources were utilized. So be of good courage, and please continue doing what you've been doing. It has been very useful to expose some of the things that are happening in the counties. And I think we'll need to do the same thing for Nairobi County.
Chair, the interesting thing about the media, you see, the reporters who come to these committees to cover proceedings in Parliament, to cover proceedings, they are not the problem. These guys will get all the material, everything that was said. But I'm telling you, these governors have gatekeepers at the editorial teams. Yes. There are editorial teams there that are in the pockets of governors. It doesn't matter what material these reporters come with from Parliament. I can assure you, and I don't want to name the media houses because I have seen it practically. There are governors whose material cannot be aired. If it is negative on Governor Sakaja, I know the media houses that can air and the ones that cannot air them. I can't just name them here because, you know, I also have friends in the media. But they should know that we are aware that they are frustrating the work of these hard-working reporters who come to the field, who come to the committees, who come to Parliament. But when you take the story there, the editor will just tell you this one cannot air. Yeah, because they are being paid by the governors. And others have threatened that the media houses will not receive any advertisements from them. When they are putting up these beautiful photos of them waving county fees, you see that the photo of the governor is bigger than the advertisement itself. And there are just two are notorious. Chair, you have seen the advertisement every newspaper, every day in the newspaper. You are confronted, the first page you open. I don't want to go into details.
Yeah, I think it's an issue of serious frustration. I think as we conclude, the other thing we must do for Nairobi is that the legal fees, I've just been looking at the contingent liability on legal fees is 21 billion. 21 billion Kenya shillings as contingent liability. That is more than what the Senate gives to Nairobi City County. So we had agreed earlier that we'll have a separate hearing on issues to do with legal fees. So for Nairobi, we are saying we are doing, when the governor is compelled to appear, we'll have the proper responses. We will have project visitation, but we'll also have a session on legal fees. We had asked the EACC to look at the matter, and we'll be demanding of the EACC to give us an update on how far they've gone on the matter. I know that the county assembly could have done some inquiry on legal fees, maybe the last assembly, and it would be important for us to know how far they went. But it is untenable to have such huge liabilities of 21 billion arising from legal fees. And you know, sometimes this is a route that has been used to pilfer public resources. So with that, this meeting is adjourned. Tomorrow's meeting is with the Cabinet Secretary at 10, and it's only one? We have only one meeting. Yeah, to the Cabinet Secretary and COG on human resource issues in counties, particularly the use of IPPD. Since we do not have any formal letter from the CS, we assume that the meeting is on, and I hope that you will see to it that parliamentary business is much more important than anything else. Unless he has a cabinet meeting, I think parliamentary business is perhaps the second most important thing that he should prioritize.